He is the dumbest man I've ever met. I can get angry over nothing, and he will be apologizing and begging for forgiveness. I overheard my wife of 6 years telling her sister, while planning to accuse me of cheating with her sister so she can take alimony and my house in divorce, so I tricked them into admitting everything in court. Now they're both suffering. All right, Reddit, this is going to be a long but satisfying show. Grab your popcorn and enjoy the circus. So I overheard my wife calling me the dumbest man alive while plotting to steal everything I owned. She had no idea I was standing right there. She had no idea I was recording. And she definitely had no idea what I was about to do next. I, 35 male, met my wife Isabella, 34 female, at a friend's birthday party about 8 years ago. Memorial Day weekend. One of those perfect spring days where the weather's just right and everyone's in a good mood. On my buddy Jake's birthday, his wife had invited half the neighborhood, and I was by the cooler when Isabella walked into the backyard. She seemed normal, you know? Down to earth, wore jeans and a simple top, nothing flashy, laughed at my stupid jokes. We ended up talking for 3 hours straight, sitting on those cheap plastic lawn chairs while everyone else played cornhole. She worked part-time at a boutique downtown, said she liked the customer interaction, and liked helping people find outfits that made them feel good about themselves. It seemed sweet. No red flags, not a single one. We started dating after that. Normal courtship stuff, movies and dinners, and learning each other's weird habits. She met my parents, I met hers. Her sister Lily was there too, loud and kind of chaotic. But families are families, right? You take the package deal. After 2 years of dating, I proposed. Nothing fancy, just a weekend trip to the mountains and a ring I'd saved up for. She cried, said yes, called her mom immediately. We got married 6 months later. Small wedding, just close friends and family. It was a good day. I remember thinking I was the luckiest guy alive. I bought a house after the wedding, a decent 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood. I work in IT management, pull in decent money, nothing crazy, but we're comfortable. The mortgage was manageable. We had enough left over for vacations and hobbies, and the occasional splurge. Isabella kept her part-time gig at the boutique, mostly because she wanted something to do during the day. We didn't need the income desperately, but she liked having her own thing. I trusted her completely. That's important to understand. I trusted her with my money, my home, my future. When we did the prenup before getting married, I thought it was just smart financial planning. Protect what we each brought into the marriage, keep things clean if God forbid something went wrong. My lawyer recommended it since I was making more money, and Isabella's parents actually suggested it too. It seemed mutual, responsible, adult. Looking back now, I realize how perfectly she'd played it. But I'm getting ahead of myself again. For 6 years, everything was fine. Better than fine. I had no reason to doubt her. No reason to question anything. No reason to think the woman I'd married was capable of what she was planning. Everything changed about 8 months ago. It started small, the kind of stuff you notice but don't really register as a pattern until later. Isabella started getting weird, distant, always on her phone, angling it away when I walked by. She'd be texting someone, and the second I came into the room, she'd flip the phone face down or quickly close out of whatever she was looking at. At first, I figured it was nothing. Maybe she was planning a surprise for my birthday, which was coming up. Maybe she was talking to her friends about girl stuff she didn't want to share. I'm not one of those psycho husbands who demands to check their wife's phone. Privacy matters, even in marriage. But then she started coming home later than usual. The boutique closed at 6, but she'd roll in at 8, sometimes 9, with vague explanations about inventory or helping a difficult customer. She'd smell like perfume, but not her perfume. Something different. When I'd ask about her day, she'd give these short, clipped answers and change the subject. The classic signs, right? But here's the thing. I didn't immediately jump to cheating because that felt too cliché, too obvious. This was Isabella, my wife of 6 years, the woman who cried at rom-coms and got excited about new kitchen gadgets. Cheating seemed impossible. I figured maybe she was going through something, maybe stressed about work, or worried about her mom's health, or dealing with Lily's latest drama. I gave her space, tried to be supportive without being pushy, asked if everything was okay, told her I was there if she needed to talk. She'd smile, kiss my cheek, and say everything was fine, just tired. The distance got worse. We stopped having sex, like completely stopped. She'd say she was too tired, had a headache, wasn't in the mood, for months. Anytime I tried to initiate, she'd shut it down. We went from a healthy sex life to absolutely nothing, and when I tried to have a conversation about it, she got defensive. Not everything is about sex, she snapped one night. Maybe I'm just exhausted from working and managing the house and dealing with everything while you're at the office all day. which didn't make sense. But I didn't push it. Didn't want to start a fight. I figured we'd work through whatever rough patch this was. She started going out more with Lily. Girls' nights, she'd call them. 2-3 times a week, she'd get dressed up, actually put effort into her appearance in a way she hadn't in months for me, and disappear until midnight. Lily had always been a bad influence, always pulling Isabella into her chaos, so I wasn't thrilled about it. But what was I going to do? Tell my wife she couldn't see her sister? Lily, by the way, was a piece of work. 2 years younger than Isabella, never held a job for more than 6 months. Always had some drama going on. Always needed money. Always had a crisis. She'd been divorced twice by 32. Both times she cheated. Both times she acted like the victim. Like the men in her life had driven her to it. Isabella always defended her. Always made excuses. She's just going through a rough time, Isabella would say. She needs support. I tolerated Lily because you tolerate your wife's family, but I never liked her. She had this entitled energy, like the world owed her something. She'd show up at our house, eat our food, complain about her life, ask to borrow money, and never say thank you. Isabella would just enable her, hand over cash, let her crash on our couch for weeks at a time. The weirdness escalated. Isabella started picking fights with me over nothing. I'd load the dishwasher wrong, forget to text her when I was leaving work, breathe too loud while she was watching TV. Everything I did annoyed her. Every conversation turned into an argument. She had this tone, this edge to her voice that was new, like she was constantly on the verge of snapping at me. When I asked her what was going on, "There's nothing wrong with me," she said coldly. "Maybe you're the problem." I didn't know what to do. The woman I'd married had turned into someone I barely recognized, and I had no idea why. No idea what had changed or how to fix it. I just knew something was very, very wrong. And then I found out exactly how wrong things were. It was a random Tuesday afternoon when my entire world imploded. I'd left work early because I had a migraine that felt like someone was jackhammering my skull. My boss took one look at me and told me to go home before I puked on my keyboard. I grabbed my stuff and headed out around 1:30 p.m. I pulled into the driveway around 2 p.m. My car had been making this weird rattling noise lately, but today it was running smoother than usual, quieter. Nobody heard me pull up. I walked in through the garage, fumbling with my keys, already thinking about crawling into bed with the curtains drawn and sleeping off the pain. That's when I heard Isabella's voice coming from the kitchen. She was on speakerphone, clear as day, and her sister Lily was on the other end. I stood in the hallway, one hand still on the doorknob, frozen. Something in Isabella's tone made me stop, made me listen. I can't explain it, but I knew immediately that I needed to hear what they were saying. Isabella was laughing. This nasty, cruel laugh I'd never heard before in 6 years of marriage. "Lily, I'm telling you, he is the dumbest man I've ever met. I can get angry over nothing and he'll be apologizing and begging for forgiveness within an hour. He's pathetic." My blood ran cold. I pressed myself against the wall, barely breathing, heart pounding so loud I was sure they'd hear it. Lily cackled on the other end. "God, I still can't believe you got him to sign that prenup and he thought it was his idea. Right? That was genius. But it screws me now because if I file for divorce, I get basically nothing. The house is in his name. Most of the assets are protected. I've been stuck in this boring marriage for 6 years, and I can't even cash out properly." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Every word was a knife twisting deeper. Lily's voice went lower, conspiratorial. "So the plan still works, right? We go with the cheating angle?" "Yeah, but we have to be smart. North Carolina is one of those states where infidelity actually matters in divorce. If I can prove he cheated, the prenup gets complicated, since there is an infidelity clause. I can go after alimony, maybe the house. Definitely a bigger settlement. My lawyer already confirmed it." "Ito, and you want to say he cheated with me?" Lily sounded almost excited about it. Like this was fun for her. "It's perfect. You're my sister, that makes it worse. More emotional damage, shows a pattern of betrayal. We'll say it's been going on for months. I'll get text messages ready, we'll coordinate stories, maybe some fake hotel receipts. He won't know what hit him." I thought I was going to throw up. My hands were shaking. The migraine was forgotten, replaced by pure ice-cold shock. Lily laughed again. "What about Brad?" Isabella's tone shifted immediately, got all soft and giggly in a way that made me want to punch through the wall. "Brad has no idea I'm even married. I've been careful. He thinks I'm a single account manager who lives across town. We only meet at his place or hotels. There's no way this traces back to me." "You're terrible," Lily said, but she was laughing. They both were. "So when do we pull the trigger?" "Soon. I'm thinking next month. I'll stage a huge fight, throw him out, file immediately." With you backing me up on the affair story, he won't have time to build a defense. He'll be so shocked and guilty feeling that he'll probably just agree to whatever I want to make it go away. God, men are so stupid. The stupidest, Isabella agreed. Especially this one. They kept talking. 10 more minutes of logistics, of planning, of laughing at me. They talked about how they'd rehearsed their stories to make sure they matched. How Isabella was going to clean out the joint checking account the day before she filed. How they'd make me look like a monster in court. Paint Isabella as the victim of my betrayal. They talked about me like I was an ATM machine with legs. Like I was nothing but an inconvenience to be dealt with and discarded. I backed out of the house as quietly as I'd come in, moving on autopilot, not really processing what I was doing. Got in my car, started driving. No destination in mind, just driving. Hands gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles were white. Ended up in a grocery store parking lot 20 minutes later. Just sitting there. 6 years. 6 years of marriage. And she was planning to destroy me. With completely fabricated accusations of cheating with her own sister. She was going to lie in court, commit perjury, steal my money, take my house, and run off with some guy named Brad, who didn't even know she was married. The rage came later. Right then, sitting in that parking lot, I just felt cold, empty, analytical. Because here's the thing about working in IT, you learn to troubleshoot problems. You don't panic when the system crashes, you gather information, you plan your response, you fix it step by step. And brother, I had a problem that needed solving. I sat in that parking lot for 2 hours, thinking through every angle, running scenarios, calculating risks. I could confront her right now, walk back in, tell her I heard everything, watch her face when she realized she was caught. But that was emotional, reactive. She'd just deny everything, maybe even accelerate her timeline, file for divorce tomorrow, before I could build any kind of defense. I could file for divorce first, try to beat her to the punch, but without proof of her infidelity, without evidence of her plan to frame me, it'd still be messy as heck. She had her sister ready to commit perjury for her. She had a head start on planning, she had a lawyer already, but I had something she didn't have. I had the truth. I knew about Brad. I knew about the fake affair accusation. I knew their entire plan before they'd even executed it. She thought I was the dumbest man she'd ever met, thought I'd roll over and accept whatever she threw at me. She had no idea what was coming. I pulled out my phone, called my office, told them I needed to take the rest of the week off. Family emergency. My boss, good guy, told me not to worry about it. Take care of what I needed to take care of. Then I called a lawyer. Not our family lawyer, not anyone Isabella knew. A different firm, one that specialized in difficult divorces. Made an appointment for first thing the next morning. Finally, I texted Isabella. Migraine got worse, gonna crash at Jake's place tonight. Don't want to bother you. Feel better in the morning. She texted back immediately. Okay, feel better, babe. That little heart emoji. That fake concern. After what I just heard. I drove to Jake's place. He took one look at my face and knew something was catastrophically wrong. Didn't even ask. Just sat down on the couch. Tell me, he said. So I did. Told him everything. Every word of that conversation I'd overheard. Jake's face got darker and darker as I talked, until he looked ready to commit violence on my behalf. Holy crap, he finally said. What are you going to do? I stared ahead. I'm going to bury both of them. Need help? Yeah, I'm going to need a place to stay for a while. And I need you to not tell anyone about this. Not even your wife. Not yet. Can you do that? Jake nodded. Whatever you need, man. Whatever you need. We sat there in silence for a while, both of us processing what this meant. My marriage was over. My wife had been cheating on me, plotting against me, planning to destroy my life. And I was going to have to go back into that house, look her in the eye, and pretend everything was fine while I built my case. You're going to need evidence, Jake said finally. Recordings, proof of the affair, something concrete. Yeah, I know. I stared at the wall. This is going to take a while. How long? As long as it takes. You can do this, Jake said. You're the smartest guy I know. If anyone can outmaneuver those two, it's you. Starting tomorrow, I'd go back home. I'd smile at my wife. I'd play the role of the dumb husband she thought I was. And while I did that, I'd gather every piece of evidence I needed to destroy her plan completely. She wanted to play games? Fine. But she just made the biggest mistake of her life. The next few weeks were the hardest of my life. I had to pretend everything was normal while I built my case. Every morning, I woke up next to a woman who was actively plotting to ruin me, and I had to smile and make small talk over coffee. Every night, I listened to her talk about her day, knowing she was probably coming from meeting her boyfriend, knowing she'd been practicing fake tears in the mirror, rehearsing her lies. But I didn't break. Not once. First thing I did was set up a voice-activated recorder in my home office. Small thing. Looked like a regular pen, but it picked up everything within 20 feet. Cost me $200 on Amazon, worth every penny. I kept it in my pocket or left it in rooms where Isabella spent time. North Carolina is a one-party consent state for recordings, meaning I could legally record conversations I was part of, or that happened in my own home. I checked with a lawyer, very carefully, very hypothetically. Everything I was doing was above board. Within a week, I had hours of Isabella on the phone with Lily, refining their story. They were getting sloppy, confident, talking freely because they thought they were safe in my house, in my marriage, protected by my supposed stupidity. In one recording, Isabella literally practiced crying while describing the affair she was going to accuse me of. It was Oscar-worthy, I'll give her that. All fake tears and wounded wife routine. I came home early and found them together, she rehearsed, voice breaking perfectly. In our bed, Lily, our bed. I can't believe he'd do this to me. With my own sister. Lily, equally dramatic on the other end. Isabella, I'm so sorry. He came on to me. He said you weren't paying attention to him anymore. I was vulnerable after my divorce. I didn't mean for it to happen. That's good. Yeah, the vulnerable angle. That makes you sympathetic. Should we say it happened multiple times or just once? Multiple times is better. Shows a pattern. We'll say it's been going on for 3 months. I saved every recording, backed them up in 3 different places, including a cloud account Isabella didn't know existed. 1 copy stayed with Jake, 1 went to my lawyer, 1 stayed in a safe deposit box. This was ammunition, and I wasn't going to lose it. Next problem, Brad. I needed to know who this guy was and whether he knew about Isabella's real situation. This took some detective work, but I had advantages. I had access to Isabella's laptop password. She used the same one for everything, because she was, as she'd accurately described me, not very smart about security. Found him in 2 days. Brad, 34, worked as a property manager for a commercial real estate company. Had his own place about 30 minutes from our house. Isabella had been seeing him for almost 5 months based on her calendar and deleted messages I recovered from her backup files. The poor guy had no clue. His social media was public, and there were photos of him and Isabella at restaurants, at his apartment, looking coupley. She was tagged as Isabella in his posts. He'd introduced her to his friends. There were comments from his mom asking when she'd get to meet Isabella properly. He genuinely thought he had a girlfriend. He had no idea she was married, living a completely separate life with a husband she was planning to frame for infidelity with her own sister. The guy was collateral damage in Isabella's schemes, just another person she was using and lying to. I knew he was going to be a key piece in destroying her story. If I could prove Isabella was the one having an affair, and that her accusation against me was fabricated, the prenup would hold, and she'd get exactly nothing. Better yet, in North Carolina, I might even be able to sue her for emotional distress and fraud. The plan was coming together, but I needed more. I needed to catch them in the act, on record, being explicit about framing me. I needed Lily to incriminate herself beyond just phone calls that could be explained away. I needed it all documented, time-stamped, undeniable. So I set a trap. I started picking fights with Isabella, small ones, just enough to make her think her timeline was moving up. I'd come home and be distant, distracted. When she asked what was wrong, I'd say, nothing, in that way that clearly meant something. I was playing into her expectations of me as the dumb husband who couldn't communicate. She took the bait, started getting more aggressive with her accusations, pushing harder, trying to manufacture the big fight she needed to justify throwing me out. I let her push, let her yell, and I'd respond exactly how she expected, trying to fix things. My lawyer, Henry, was putting together a case that would make her head spin. Adultery proof, recordings of the conspiracy to commit perjury, documentation of her plan to steal marital assets. We had enough to not just win the divorce, but to potentially get her charged with fraud and theft. This is one of the most clear-cut cases I've ever seen, Henry said during one of our meetings. She's handed you everything you need on a silver platter. When are you planning to file? Soon. I want one more thing first. I want them caught actually creating the fake evidence. Photos, texts, whatever they're planning to use as proof of the affair that never happened. I want them on record fabricating it. That's risky. The longer you wait, the more chance she files first. She won't. She's waiting for next month. She said so herself. I've got time. Henry nodded. Your call, but be careful. If this goes sideways, it won't. Trust me. 2 weeks later, I got what I needed. Lily came over to the house while I was supposedly at work. I'd called in sick but parked my car down the street, then snuck back to my own house like I was the one having an affair. Ridiculous, but necessary. Sat in my home office with the door cracked, recorder running, and listened to Isabella and Lily create their evidence. They were taking photos in my bedroom. Isabella posing in disheveled clothes. makeup smudged like she'd been crying. Lily messing up the bedsheets, tossing pillows around. They were literally staging a crime scene. They spent an hour creating their fake evidence. Text messages sent from a burner phone Lily had bought. Saved screenshots of conversations that never happened. Even a hotel receipt Lily had somehow gotten from one of her friends who worked at a Marriott. When they finally left, I waited 30 minutes to make sure they were gone, then came out of my office. Looked at my bedroom, at the stage scene they'd created, took my own photos of everything exactly as they'd left it. Then I called Henry. "We're ready," I said. "File the papers." I filed for divorce on a Thursday morning. Henry hand-delivered the papers to Isabella at her boutique. Made sure she was completely blindsided. No chance for her to prepare or destroy evidence. The papers laid out everything. Her affair with Brad. The recordings of her conversations with Lily, planning to frame me. Evidence of conspiracy to commit perjury. Proof of her intention to steal marital assets. We were seeking full enforcement of the prenup, claiming adultery, and pursuing criminal charges for fraud and theft. Isabella's world imploded in about 30 seconds. Henry said she went white, actually stumbled backward, had to sit down on one of the boutique's fancy chairs. Her boss asked if she was okay. Isabella couldn't even speak, just stared at the papers, reading through page after page of her own words coming back to destroy her. She called me immediately. I let it go to voicemail. She called again, and again, 12 times in the first hour. Finally, I answered. "What the heck did you do?" She was screaming, that carefully maintained mask completely gone. "You filed for divorce? You're accusing me of cheating?" "Yeah, funny how that works." "This is insane. I never cheated on you. This is crazy. You're going to look like a psycho." "Isabella, I have recordings." Silence. Dead silence on the other end of the line. Recordings of you and Lily planning to frame me for having an affair with her. Recordings of you talking about Brad, about cleaning out our bank accounts, about staging fake evidence in our bedroom. Want me to keep going? You recorded us?" Her voice was smaller now, uncertain. "You can't do this." "I already did. The papers are filed. Oh, and by the way, I've also notified Brad. Sent him a nice email with proof that you're married, that you've been lying to him for 5 months. Attached a photo of our wedding." He was pretty upset. "You jerk!" "No, Isabella. You don't get to be mad. You don't get to play the victim. You tried to destroy my life and I stopped you. That's all this is. Consequences for your actions. I'll fight this. I'll get a lawyer. You do that. Your lawyer's going to tell you exactly what mine told me. You're screwed. You committed adultery. You planned to commit perjury. You conspired to steal marital assets. The prenup holds. You get nothing. And if my lawyer pushes hard enough, you might face criminal charges." She was crying now. Real tears this time. Not the practiced ones she'd been rehearsing. "Please, we can work this out. We can go to counseling." "No, we're done. You made your choice months ago when you started planning this. You just didn't expect to get caught. What about the house? Where am I supposed to go?" "Not my problem. You've got 30 days to move out, per the legal notice. Figure it out." "I have nowhere to go. Call Lily." "I'm sure she'll let you crash on her couch while you figure out your next scam." I hung up, blocked her number, blocked Lily's number, blocked their entire family's numbers. I was done. The next few weeks were chaotic. Isabella tried everything. She showed up at my work, security had to escort her out. She showed up at Jake's place where I was staying. I called the cops. She sent her parents to try to talk to me. I refused to see them. She even hired a lawyer. Some shark who tried to claim the recordings were illegal, or obtained under duress, or some nonsense. Henry tore him apart, submitted the recordings to the court, along with all the other evidence. The judge listened to about 5 minutes of Isabella and Lily planning their perjury before her face went hard. The judge said, "Do you understand that what you're describing in these recordings is a criminal offense?" Isabella's lawyer tried to object, but the judge cut him off. "I've heard enough. The prenuptial agreement will be enforced in full. Ms. Mitchell will vacate the marital home within 30 days. She is entitled to her personal belongings only. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney's office for investigation of possible perjury, conspiracy, and fraud charges." Isabella started crying in the courtroom. Her lawyer was frantically whispering to her, probably telling her to shut up and stop making things worse. Lily was there too, sitting in the back, looking pale. The gavel came down. Divorce granted. I got the house, the car, every asset protected by the prenup. Isabella got nothing. Less than nothing, actually, because now she had potential criminal charges hanging over her head. I walked out of that courtroom feeling lighter than I had in months. Henry clapped me on the shoulder. "That was beautiful. I've never seen someone self-destruct so completely. She did it to herself. I just documented it." Brad contacted me a few weeks later, apologized profusely, said he had no idea Isabella was married, felt like an idiot for believing her lies. I told him it wasn't his fault. She was good at lying. That's what she did. He seemed like a decent guy, actually. Just another victim of Isabella's manipulation. He ended up being willing to testify if it came to that, corroborate the timeline of the affair, provide evidence that Isabella had been lying to both of us. I appreciated it. Gave Henry his contact info just in case. The criminal case moved forward. The DA was very interested in Isabella and Lily's plan to commit perjury and steal marital assets. Apparently, this kind of conspiracy wasn't as common as people might think, and they wanted to make an example. I had to give a deposition, bring all my evidence, walk through everything that happened. It was exhausting, reliving it all, but necessary. The DA's office was thorough, professional. They took it seriously. Isabella tried to contact me one more time before the criminal charges were filed. She showed up at my house, banging on the door at 10 p.m. on a Wednesday. I answered with my phone already recording. She looked terrible. Lost weight, hair unwashed, wearing sweatpants and an old t-shirt. This was not the woman who'd been so carefully planning my destruction months ago. This was someone who'd lost everything and knew it. She started begging immediately, asking me to drop the charges, saying she'd lose everything, that she could go to jail. I told her she should have thought of that before trying to frame me for a crime I didn't commit. She kept going, claiming she was stupid, that she was angry, that she didn't think. That's exactly the problem. She thought I was too dumb to figure it out, thought she could manipulate me forever, thought there would be no consequences. She was wrong on all counts. You don't get to beg now, I said. You had 6 years to be a decent person, to be honest, to treat me with respect. You chose to cheat, to lie, to plan my destruction. You made your bed. Lie in it. Lily appeared from behind her. Must have been waiting in the car. She immediately started screaming that this was my fault. That if I'd been a better husband, Isabella wouldn't have needed to do what she did. Wouldn't have needed to what? Cheat on me? Steal from me? Try to frame me? Yeah, clearly I'm the problem here. They tried claiming it was just a mistake, that they were sorry, that they'd pay back every cent. I reminded them the only reason they'd pay anything back was because the court ordered it. That's not generosity, that's the law. Isabella started crying, the ugly kind, talking about how she'd lost her job, how she was living with Lily in a studio apartment, how she couldn't find work because every background check showed pending criminal charges. Again, how is that my problem? They kept insisting they'd made a mistake, asking if I'd never made one myself. I looked at both of them, really looked at them. They were broken, completely destroyed. Every plan they'd made had blown up in their faces. They were facing jail time, criminal records, financial ruin, and I felt absolutely nothing. You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. You chose to lie, to steal, to try to destroy my life. You planned it for months. You practiced your stories. You were ready to commit perjury in court and didn't care what it would do to me. The only mistake you made was getting caught. Isabella reached for my arm, but I stepped back. I told her straight up that even if I wanted to drop the charges, I couldn't because the DA was prosecuting. And even if I could, they'd just do this to someone else. They'd learn that there are no consequences for being terrible people. So no, face the consequences. Maybe it'll make them better people, but I doubt it. Lily's face changed, went from pleading to angry in a second. You smug jerk. You think you're so much better than us? I think I'm not a criminal. That's the bar we're working with. She started yelling again about how this was my fault, how I should have been a better husband. I gave her the same response. Isabella tried to pull Lily back, telling her to stop, that she was making it worse. Lily lost it completely, screaming about how they were going to jail because I'd recorded them. I recorded you confessing to crimes. That's different. They started arguing with each other then, right there on my porch, screaming at each other about whose fault it was, who said what, who came up with the plan. Isabella blamed Lily for being too obvious. Lily blamed Isabella for involving her. It was honestly kind of satisfying to watch them turn on each other. Then Lily shoved Isabella, like actually physically shoved her off my porch steps. Isabella stumbled, caught herself, then came back swinging. They were full-on fighting on my front lawn. 2 grown women throwing punches and pulling hair like they were in high school. I pulled out my phone and called 911. Told them there were 2 women fighting on my lawn, getting pretty violent. The operator asked if anyone was in danger. I looked at Isabella and Lily rolling around in the grass, screaming at each other. Just their dignity. But yeah, send someone before they hurt each other. Cops showed up in about 6 minutes. Separated Isabella and Lily, both of whom were crying and bleeding from scratches. both of whom immediately started trying to blame each other for the fight. The cops recognized their names. Apparently, their criminal case had made the rounds in the local PD. One of the officers looked at me with something like sympathy. "These the two who tried to frame you?" "Yup. And now they're fighting on your lawn?" "Yup. Man, you can't make this stuff up." He shook his head. They were going to take them both in for disturbing the peace. He asked if I wanted to press charges for trespassing. I thought about it for a second. Nah, they've got enough legal problems. The cops hauled both of them away in separate cars, still screaming at each other. My neighbors had come out to watch, and I just waved at them like this was a totally normal Tuesday night. After they left, I went back inside and sat on my couch in my house. My house. That I got to keep because I didn't let two manipulative liars destroy my life. The criminal trials happened 4 months later. I didn't attend, but Henry kept me updated. Lily took a plea deal, testified against Isabella, got probation and community service. Isabella went to trial, got convicted on the identity theft and theft charges, sentenced to 18 months in prison and restitution. The perjury charges for both of them resulted in suspended sentences but permanent criminal records. Neither of them would be able to pass a background check for decent employment. They'd destroyed their own futures, trying to destroy mine. I got every cent back that Isabella had stolen, plus damages, plus my legal fees. The house appreciated nicely. I started dating again, took my time, made sure I wasn't rushing into anything. Life moved on. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.